after you've made the appropriate entries in the product SKU table, you can move on to making the pricing entries for these SKUs in the SKU pricing table. If you open that in Microsoft Access, it will look something like this. Now, it's important to note at this point that even if you only plan to use the PrebuiltML pricing feature to map your SKUs to your material lists, and you don't intend to include any actual pricing, it's still important to come to the SKU pricing table and make sure that the unit of price is appropriately set for each of your SKUs. Let's take a look at a PrebuiltML report to see why this would be the case. Here on this priced report, you can see that the top line is a single 2 by 8 by 20 foot long SYP number 2 board. Over in the unit of price column, you'll see that BF, or board foot, has been set. Accordingly, in the amount column, 27 has been entered, since that's the amount of board feet that are in a 2 by 8 by 20 foot long board. But if your SKU that you use in your organization is based on the lineal foot, or even just the each or count of boards, you would want the unit of price to be set accordingly so that the amount column properly reflects the amounts that need to be priced. Back over in the PID file, as with the product SKU table, in the SKU pricing table, you can choose to make changes or updates by clicking directly into a field and make changes, or copying and pasting and making direct entries in the new line. And you can also export or copy to Excel to make more changes there, as was discussed in the previous video. But when it comes to the SKU pricing table, one thing to keep in mind is that for most people, pricing updates on a fairly regular basis, and so some of the information in the SKU pricing table will need to be changed and updated quite frequently. Because of this, it's a good idea to create an automated or semi-automated process to allow you to update this pricing SKU table with your most current pricing information. This can be done in multiple different ways using either Access or Excel, but let's take a quick look at just a simple solution. Let's say, for example, that you have a point of sale system and you want to export that data to Excel. Here is an example of what that export should look like. You'll remember over in the PID file that these columns are SKU, price, price per, unit of price, and region. If we come to this export in Excel, again, we have columns that match that format so that they will be easy to copy and paste in. SKU, price, price per, unit of price, and pricing tier or region. In this particular example, we have 4 different tiers: Store 1 Retail, Store 1 Contractor, Store 2 Contractor, and Store 2 Retail. For each of the different prices for the same SKU, we're going to make a single line entry. So note here in this example that we have 4 lines at the top that are all the same SKU. The difference is the change in price and the change in tier. For each of those tiers and price changes, we have a different line entry in our Excel export. So with this format in place, we can then copy all of this information, Control C. At this point, since we're going to bring in all new pricing information, it can be easiest to simply select the lines and delete those lines so that our table is empty. And now with an empty table, we can select New and copy and paste all those records in. We can click Yes, and the records are pasted. So a simple method is to create an export from your point of sale system that matches the column structure that is already in the SKU pricing table, and create a row for each SKU and its associated price tier level. One row for each tier. And then take that information and copy and paste it all in one action into the SKU pricing table. There are numerous ways to approach this task of updating the pricing information in your SKU pricing table, some using Access, some Excel, or other queries. And the right solution for your organization will be determined based on your organization's specific situation and available resources.